Hey guys, okay, I found something this week that kind of broke my brain a little in the best way, and I have to share it. So here it is. You don't actually remember your experiences. You remember a tiny, edited highlight reel of them. And the edit follows rules so weird that your memory of almost everything is, in a real sense, wrong. Think about that. The vacation, the relationship, the hard day at work. You feel like you remember how it was. You don't. You remember two specific moments, and your brain quietly throws away the rest. So which two moments survive? And why does your brain delete the rest? Let me walk you through it, because once you see the rule, you can actually start using it on yourself. So here's the mechanism. When you live through an experience, you feel it moment to moment. But when it's over, your brain doesn't store the whole thing. It can't. Too much data, so it takes a shortcut. It saves two snapshots, the most intense moment, the peak, and the final moment, the end. Then it basically averages those two and calls that the memory. Psychologists have a name for this. It's called the peak-end rule, plain version. How you remember an experience is decided almost entirely by its most intense point and how it ended, not by the sum of the whole thing. The boring middle barely counts. The length barely counts, just the peak and the end. And get this, the actual duration of an experience gets almost ignored. They call it duration neglect. A vacation that was 8 days and one that was 12 days leave nearly the same memory. If the peak and the ending feel the same, your brain is not running a stopwatch. It's taking two photos. You don't remember your experiences. You remember two moments from each one. Your brain takes a shortcut. It saves the most intense moment and the final moment and throws away almost everything in between. That's it. A long vacation and a short one leave the same memory if the high point and the ending match. The middle just vanishes. So the way you remember your whole life is basically a handful of peaks and endings stitched together, which means most of what you actually lived, you've already deleted. And the part that survives might be lying to you. Let me give you some real examples, because this runs everything. Think about a meal at a restaurant. Great food the whole way through. But the check comes, and the waiter's rude, and there's a long, cold wait at the end. You walk out saying that place was kinda bad. The food didn't change. The ending poisoned the memory. Flip it. Mediocre meal, but a warm goodbye and a free little dessert at the end, and you remember it fondly. The end did that. Or think about a long flight. 6 hours, mostly fine, but there's 20 minutes of bad turbulence right at the worst point, and then a rough landing. You get off saying that was a nightmare flight. It wasn't, really. Most of it was calm, but the peak was scary and the end was rough, so your brain filed the whole thing under bad. And here's where it gets personal. Think about a relationship that lasted years, good years mostly. But it ended badly, painfully. Ask yourself how you remember it now. For most people, the bad ending bleeds backward and stains the whole thing. You remember it as mostly painful, even though, day to day, it mostly wasn't. That's not you being dramatic. That's the peak-end rule editing your past. A relationship can be good for years, and you'll still remember it as bad. Here's the brutal reason. Your brain remembers experiences by two things only: the most intense moment and how it ended. So when something ends in pain, that ending bleeds backwards and stains everything before it. Years of good days, quietly overwritten by the last bad month. It feels like you're remembering the truth. You're not. You're remembering the finale and calling it the whole story. So how much of your past have you misjudged this way? So here's where it gets a little darker, because this means your memory is genuinely unreliable in a way you can't feel from the inside. You don't experience your memories as edited. They feel complete. They feel true. And that's the trap. You make huge decisions: who to forgive, what to avoid, whether something was worth it, based on a two-frame summary your brain passes off as the full film. But here's the part nobody tells you. Once you know the rule, you can flip it from a bug into a tool. Because if memory is built from peaks and endings, then you can deliberately shape the peaks and endings of your own life, and that quietly changes how you'll remember everything. So what do you actually do with this? Here's the practical part. First, end things on purpose. This is the big one. Since the ending gets enormous weight, never let important things just trail off. The end of a trip, a visit, a date, a workday. Take 10 seconds to close it well. A warm goodbye, one good moment, a small kindness at the door. That tiny ending becomes a huge chunk of the whole memory. You're not faking anything. You're just putting your effort where your memory will actually keep it. Here's a trick that changes how people remember time with you. Stop trying to make everything good. Focus on the ending. Your brain remembers experiences mostly by how they end, so the last moment counts way more than the middle. A dinner, a trip, a tough conversation. Don't let it just fizzle out. Close it with one warm moment on purpose. A real goodbye, a small kindness, one good beat at the very end. People will remember the whole thing as better than it was. Not because you faked it, because you put your effort where memory actually looks. Second, build one real peak instead of spreading yourself thin. You don't need a whole day to be amazing for it to be remembered as amazing. You need one genuine high point. So when you're planning something, a birthday, a trip, a date, stop trying to keep everything evenly nice. Pour your energy into making one moment truly stand out. One peak beats 6 hours of fine, every time, in memory. Third, when a whole experience feels bad, interrogate it. Here's the rescue move. When you catch yourself thinking that was all terrible, stop and ask, was the whole thing actually bad? Or just the peak and the ending? Sometimes you'll realize most of it was fine, and your brain just got hijacked by one rough moment and a bad finish. That question can hand you back a memory the rule had quietly stolen. Now, let me push back on my own point a little, because there's a real nuance here, and it matters. This isn't permission to fake a happy ending onto something hollow. If the underlying experience is genuinely bad, slapping a nice bow on the last 5 minutes is just manipulation, and people feel the gap. The peak end rule explains how memory compresses real experience. It's not a cheat code to paper over something empty. The good moments still have to be real. You're just choosing where to place the real ones. And there's a second nuance, and honestly, it's the important one. Don't get so obsessed with engineering memories that you forget to actually live the middle. The forgotten minutes, the boring parts your brain won't keep, those are still your real life as you're living it. A life optimized only for the highlight reel is a strange, hollow thing. The peak and the end are how you'll remember it, but the middle is how you'll have lived it. Both of those matter, and they're not the same. Because here's what's really going on under all of this. You walk around assuming your memory is a faithful record, a witness telling you the truth about your own past. It isn't. It's a storyteller, and a biased one, keeping 2 scenes from each chapter and quietly tossing the rest. Which means the story you tell yourself about your life, what was good, what was wasted, who hurt you, what was worth it, is built on a highlight reel you didn't consciously choose, until now. So here's where it all lands. You are not a camera. You're an editor who works in the dark, keeping the loudest moment and the last one, calling that the truth. So 2 things. Be a little skeptical of your worst memories, because they might just be a bad ending wearing a whole story's clothes. And shape your endings on purpose, because those few seconds are what your future self will actually keep. The middle fades, the peak and the end remain. Choose them while you still can. If you're into this kind of thing, me pulling apart how people actually work, hit subscribe. I dig into a new one every week.